One of the million-dollar questions that people always want to know is, what numbers should I be tracking in my business? What should I know? What should I have at the tip of my fingers? Tips that I can use to analyze where we're at, where we're going to be able to see ourselves and make the right decisions moving forward from the critical point of where you are right now. Let's get stuck in and I'll explain to you exactly how you can do that best for your health and medical business right now. Well, hopefully everything is going really well for yourself and your business right now. Obviously, we've had a very challenging or somewhat challenging year and a half in place, and a lot of people's businesses have changed significantly. Let's just park that mentality around pivot and pivoting, because we should never have to pivot. We should be more agile, because agility in our health and medical business is what actually drives stability and a better avenue for growth, rather than ever having to get into a pivot situation. But we are looking at situations in this podcast in and around financials. What numbers should you know in your business? And look, let's just cut to the chase. Most of you probably already know that we do have a financial mastery formula known as the FMF. We've been teaching it to the industry for nearly a decade, and it's the 8 most important numbers that you need to know in your business. We have this systemized in all of our businesses, all of our clients' businesses, with a live dashboard. So every 60 seconds globally, it is actually refreshed, and you are completely up to date with everything that you need to know to be able to know where your business is at, what's happening with your team, what's happening with your marketing, where your business is going to be able to move forward, which is really, really cool. And that's something that we've been really proud of, for everyone to be able to have that literally at the tip of their fingers, on their phone, on the app, and all that type of stuff. But here's the thing: when we talk about this and we talk about the financial mastery formula, and we look at those 8 numbers, which I'll go through in a moment as well, it's more imperative and more important to understand why you're looking at certain numbers and actually understand what certain numbers are actually telling you in your business. So if we stop and have a think about it, and the reason why I think this is really crucial is we've got a new client that started with us 3 days ago now, and I've just finished having a roadmap session with him earlier today, and he was very confident in what they're doing and where they're going, which is great. And he does have some type of numbers and rough avenue and understanding of what they're happening in their business, which is fantastic, right? But the challenge is that just because he, like so many health and medical business owners, have numbers, doesn't mean they'd actually know what to do with them or the interpretation. And so this actually goes to the point of, how do we then read and interpret the numbers? First of all, which ones are they? How do we interpret them? What do we need to know for what situations? And then that age-old question, is that good, Jason? Is that bad? What do I need to improve upon? Where's our weaknesses, etc.? So the great thing about how our dashboard, actually, just on a side note, is set up, is all of our clients can actually look at comparing their own dashboard, their own numbers for the last month, to their own 3-month rolling averages, so we can see what's on the right trend or what's needs to be worked on, etc. But they can click one button and they can look at that and have their numbers and their rolling 3-month averages benchmarked against the whole industry as such. So we've got about 85 or 90 different businesses that are plugging into that at the moment. So it's something that can now actually show them for the first time ever, because it's not done anywhere else by anyone else, how they're actually tracking with their numbers compared to everyone else as well. So they don't see individual numbers, which is great for privacy-wise, but it means that we can now actually have everyone benchmarked to know whether they're sort of above the average, below the average, and where we might need to tweak things as well. Because ultimately, we can have a lot of data, and you can test and measure way too many avenues, to be completely honest, and it doesn't actually do anything for us. All right. So we have that in our financial mastery formula. We also have our cash flow forecast. And with those two different variables, we can then literally call the shots on everything we need to. So first of all, we have to understand that this is about getting the right numbers in place, making sure it's accurate, making sure it's systemized and it's automated, so that we don't have to be, spending copious amounts of time getting the wrong numbers or not getting the right data. But we also have to, number two, be fundamentally understanding that it's not just a matter of getting more data. We've got quite a few people that we've worked with over the last couple of years that, have 25 different data points. I mean, one is part of a bigger company and a franchise, and they've got like 32 or 34 different marker points that they had to go through every single month financially. And when you actually break it down, it actually becomes analysis paralysis. It's like, yep, you've got pages and graphs and all this type of stuff, but nothing's ever done about it. And no one really knew how to interpret it or what that actually meant. So you can have as many dashboards as you want. You can have as much data and reports. But ultimately, if you don't have the right numbers and you don't know how to then interpret it and understand what it's saying, and whether things are good, bad, indifferent, whether you're working compared to what you were 2 months, 3 months ago, or other people in the industry, then you might as well not have any data, because ultimately you're flying blind and you're making, most of the time, a stab in the dark assumption as to what you think or feel is good, which it may not be. So first of all, let's make sure that we're getting the right numbers. Let's make sure we're not getting too much data, because otherwise you just get analysis paralysis. And then thirdly, let's make sure that we know exactly why we're getting certain different data points and know what to look for and when. So if we use that as a base plate, then it's really simple for us to be able to move forward and make sure that we're getting enough data, not too much data, it's accurate, consistent, and we can actually track it over time, and we can actually compare that to other benchmarks so that we know whether it's good or bad, for use of a better question there. So when we look at our financial mastery formula, the 8 numbers that you must be tracking in your health and medical business are the following. First of all, we have leads. We want to be able to look at our leads, and I'm not going to go into huge depth on this at this point in time. We just want to go through them and making sure that you know what they are. We want to be able to track our leads, where they're coming from, our referral sources, etc. And our second one is our conversion. We want to make sure that we've got the right training and scripts in place for our, say, reception and admin team, so that we're making sure that we're making every post a winner. We're not potentially leaving impact or cash on the table when someone wants to talk about signage, or we have website inquiries or social media, etc. And what this does is they're the 2 major avenues for us to be able to understand where our business growth is coming from, where our new clients are coming from, what type of referral strategies are working or not working, how's our marketing looking, are we actually filling the basket or the bucket with a lot of potential new clients, but our admin team and operations need to be better at the conversion and sales conversion type process when they make inquiries. We get a really good understanding as to what strategies are working when, how we're getting more eyes on the business, etc. So that's what we need to know first and foremost in regards to our marketing and our growth potential. We then move into things like the total number of consults in the last week and also the average dollar sale, because it's crucial for us to better understand how we can have a total understanding of the metrics of the business moving forward. So we start to understand if we've got X amount of clients and X amount or Y amount of consults, we can then also understand where our revenues are going to be. And over time, you'll start to have a very good, clear understanding. Once you look at our cash flow forecast, you'll know where your break-even analysis is. You'll know that you need to see, X amount of clients for the business as a whole each week as an absolute minimum break-even. Here's where you need to be for your profit margin that you're looking towards. And if you're going to look for more equipment or a bigger premise, we can start to proactively put those benchmarks in place, and the graphs simply push out, and we know exactly where we need to go on the growth side of things. It's an easy way for us to also then utilize those numbers when we have really strong utilizations and high numbers of clientele and really good retention, for us to better understand how we can leverage that out in regards to the new team member growth, or if you're in a challenging situation regarding an industry like ours at the moment that has very little, there's not a lot of team members out there looking for jobs at the moment, right? There's a huge amount of people looking to hire in a lot of our different allied health areas, and this gives us a much better understanding of where we've got leverage points to better diversify the business, have more agility, where we can look to upsell and cross-sell what's already there in front of us without having to be treading water until a new team member comes on board. Then we start to move on to the fun ones, and these are the ones that are probably the biggest, most variable for our team analysis, individual and as a team, as a group, right? And they are the utilization rate and SPEC. Now, SPEC is SPEC, stands for sessions per episode of care. Now, this is a number that I came up with about 9 odd years ago, well before patient visit average and different things like that have now been used by the different not CRMs, but practice management systems, because I just felt this was something that needed to be done. And now in the last sort of 5-6 years, it's really started to roll on and become a bigger measurement that everyone looks at, which is fantastic because ultimately it starts to show the actual effectiveness of practitioners and also the team as a whole. So we want to be able to, and we have a specific way of measuring that over the last 12 weeks to make sure that we actually have the right average in place for how many times a person is actually being seen inside the business by that therapist. And that becomes crucial because obviously it means that we can look at things like retention. We can start to make sure that we're never over-servicing, but we're able to use one of our models, the patient pathway, to actually start to look to how we can better upsell or cross-sell different services or different products inside the business, different clinicians, and other ways for us to be able to help those clients. Now, if that's effectiveness, the efficiency side of things is the utilization rate. And this is very specific to each individual practitioner as well. We need to make sure that we've got each practitioner working very efficiently in and around their role in the team. Now, this isn't to say 100% is working 38 hours a week face-to-face with clients. No, it's not. We want to make sure, and there's a succinct little model that we use, it's very easy to work out, that we make sure that we're not testing and measuring our practitioners when there's times of meetings, professional development, marketing, admin, travel, all these different things are taken out of the equation. So we're only realistically looking at what they can do face-to-face with clients in the fair and reasonable time that's there. So that might only be 30 hours a week face-to-face, not 38. And so by having spec and utilization dialed in nicely for each team member and the team as a whole, we can then start to have a look at when we are needing to look for new team members, when we're going to actually go ahead and market certain avenues and angles. Are there people that need to be better upskilled or mentored in regards to how they work with clients or their retention strategies? So there's a lot of understanding in and around those numbers. It's one thing to have the number, but it's another thing to know what to do and the strategies that you can then put into place to make sure the team's humming along at a good rate, but also making sure we're not burning team members out. You don't want your team members working at 94% and things like that because it creates huge amounts of burnout very quickly. And then they aren't any use, nor is the team any use to everyone around them because everyone's burnt out and we're not bringing our energy all the time. The last two that we have inside the Financial Mastery formula is actually based in and around cancellations and also our what we call Kaizen gross profit. So cancellations is the only sort of negative. We want to be able to test and measure on a weekly basis. We want to make sure that we know exactly who is actually cancelling. And this isn't the people that reschedule from a Monday onto the Thursday. These are the people that actually haven't had their appointment and weren't seen during the week either. Because what that does is it potentially opens up an avenue to know why or how certain people in the business may not be completing their consultations, might not be putting the right pathway and treatment plan in place and understanding that this is the journey, this is the pathway, what it looks like. And so as a net result, some people tend to, maybe drop off as such or drop off the diary. So we want to make sure that we're able to help as many people as possible. We have the huge amount of impact and things move forward in that avenue. So cancellations are a big one that we need to know and understand very, very easily. And we can systemize, 3 really simple ways to make sure that that actually stays nice and low, and we can actually get better return on our time and effort and have more impact there as well. And the last one is Kaizen gross profit, and this one is a specific measure of how we put together the the gross profit of a person's business, because let's be honest, you could have a lot more operating expenses than others. You could have a lot more tax write-offs, different leases, loans, dividends, director payments, salaries, all different scenarios in place. We've actually put all this together with the help of two of our different sets of leading accountants for the health industry as a very strong and succinct way of making sure that everyone has the same avenue of gross profit and the same comparing of apples and apples. So we can now actually have a really good understanding of our income generating team members, our cost of sales, etc., with certain parameters. And as a net result, we get some really awesome data of those 8. So that becomes a financial mastery formula. So they are the first 8 numbers and the most important 8 numbers that you need inside your business in the health and medical industry. We can work on 3 of them, and the 3 that are blocked together there, obviously we know exactly what's happening with our marketing, what's happening with our sales and our scripts. We can work on what's happening with the team, of how efficient or how effective they are actually working with clients. And it points to things like retention. We can utilize those 2 plus our cancellations to actually have a much better understanding of exactly what's happening inside consults with our team. And are they actually using the patient pipeline? Are we actually, utilizing the right part of that back end of the progress reports and how they're actually moving forward so that people actually want to be there? And we actually get, as a net result, a much higher retention rate. We get our spec lifted up. And as a net result, we have a much better understanding all the time of being able to have higher consult numbers. We can then look to lift our higher demand, so we can lift our average dollar sale up through multiple different strategies. Our cancellations come down and our gross profit for Kaizen gross profit goes up. So when we know how to work those 8 numbers, it's very simple, it's very automated. And to be totally honest, if you want more help with this, or you want to be able to jump in onto the dashboard that we have and compare your own business to the industry as a whole and that type of stuff, just hit me up and let me know. I'm more than happy to help you out with that, because obviously at the end of the day, all of us, we've got a huge amount of workload in front of us. We've got massive amounts of clientele that none of us are able to even scratch the surface and help at the moment. We're all got to work together and make sure that we create even more impact in the months and the years ahead. So let's get stuck in. Let's make sure that we all know exactly where our numbers are, which ones that we need to know first and foremost, how we analyze them, and how we can best utilize those moving forward for you to be able to create more time, more money, more freedom, and ultimately more impact. I'll talk to you again very soon. Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Profitable Practice Podcast. I would love nothing more than for you to be able to leave a review. I get so much joy out of listening and reading the amazing things that you guys say about this. So please subscribe to our channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's get some more fantastic information out there so all of us can grow the industry together. Cheers for now.